We are live.
Thank you. And good morning, everyone. I'm Sage Turner, Chair of the Housing and Community Development Committee. I'd like to welcome you to this special meeting for the Community Development Block Grant Funding. Our applicants will be doing their presentations today. All council members and applicants are participating virtually. We're streaming live on our Virtual Engagement Hub, and that's accessible through the city's website on the Virtual Engagement Hub link, which is on the front page. We also have an option for the public to listen live by phone. That number is 855-925-2801, and you'll enter the meeting code 9791. For everyone out there joining us today, welcome. I'm going to go through and introduce all the council members and staff working with us today. If you could come off mute and just say a quick hello when I call your name. Councilwoman Smith. As you thought there was Vice Mayor, sorry. Councilwoman Mosley. I didn't actually hear you. I can't hear you. Might have a sound issue. But I see you saying yes, so we'll keep going. City Manager, Deborah Campbell. I don't think she's here today. Assistant City Manager, Rachel Wood.
Good morning.
Morning. And Community and Economic Development Director, Nikki Reed.
Good morning.
Great. Councilwoman Mosley, did you want to do a sound check real quick? Yeah, we can't hear you. Well, it's presentations only. So we're going to be doing presentations from 9 organizations that are applying for CDBG for 11 different projects. You can actually just stay muted. I don't think that there's no questions. Let's go through the whole story. I am hearing some sound bits, so you may just turn off. Be better. Okay, so there are 11 projects, 9 organizations applying for funding today. Each project will have 5 minutes to present. Applicants, please refer to the countdown timer displayed in the virtual meeting room. And during the presentations, we actually will not take any questions from committee members today. There won't be any public comment. This is just presentations. Good day for a technical issue. All right, so staff, who are going to do, they'll introduce each presenter, and if you can keep your microphone muted and your camera off to all the presenters until it's your time to speak, that will ensure that the current applicant is the one that's seen on screen. Again, this is a special meeting for applicant presentations only. We will have another housing and community development meeting on, gosh, there's so many, Wednesday, March 29th at 1:45 p.m. And that will be for the funding recommendations and allocations, as well as other HCD agenda items. We'll post information about that meeting on the website a few days beforehand. All right, and before we jump into the presentations, Nikki Reed is going to give us a little bit of an overview on what we're doing. Thank you.
Great. Good morning, everyone. I first off want to say a word of thanks to all of the applicants that have submitted this year, of course, for federal funding for Community Development Block Grant. We are only as strong as our nonprofit partners that we work with on seeing that these funds benefit people in our community. We've had a number of applications this year. City staff works to evaluate the applications first to determine eligibility. As I've said to staff, HUD is a sister agency to the IRS, so we always have to be very careful with how we look at eligibility. So we do our first pass at looking at applications to determine that eligibility, and then those that have eligible applications we bring forward today. So we've had a number of applications apply for our public services fund, as well as for the non-public services, and that's who is represented here today. So following today's meeting at the 29th, we'll come back to the committee with a full overview and recommendations concerning funding, but we certainly want to hear from agencies today. So any other information I'm happy to address, but otherwise we can get started.
All right, our first presenter is OnTrack Financial, and we have Celeste Collins presenting for them. Celeste, you will have a warning at 30 seconds, just to keep track of your time.
That sounds great. Good morning, happy spring, and happy 50th anniversary for OnTrack Financial Education and Counseling. Thank you for this opportunity to talk to you about our request for funding under the Public Services Cap. The goal of our Housing and Financial Capabilities Program is to serve 440 Asheville City residents. Our approach with financial capabilities is to provide education and counseling, plus individual support to help people reach their money and housing goals. Our staff is available for supportive accountability as people set goals and to provide help to people as bumps in the financial and housing road come along. We expect 25% of the folks that we serve to be part of our credit improvement clients, 50% to be budget clients that we help with creating money action plans and things like that, and then 25% to be home buyer clients. We are helping people in Asheville City take proactive steps to reach their money and housing goals. Our program supports the consolidated plan goal of directly supporting access to affordable housing by providing low-income households with financial counseling and credit improvement services. We support agencies that we have supported over the years, including Habitat, Mountain Housing, with clients who are potential home buyers or renters that need credit improvement and home buyer education. We also support IRA's program through Helpmate to help those participants build money skills. And also child care workers in our community, particularly through the Match Savings Program that is funded by Buncombe County. In 2021, the Attaway Group conducted a racial equity audit, which included recommendations for diversifying our staff and our board and building relationships in the community. The new BIPOC staff and board, coupled with our return to in-person work, has created a dramatic increase in requests to OnTrack to be in the community and create connections with organizations and various community groups. Since July 2022, we have connected with over 20 local nonprofit agencies who've requested programs from OnTrack in their communities. Some of these include Hood Huggers, Sisters Caring for Sisters, Bountiful Cities, Umoja, Thrive Asheville, Open Doors, and YWCA Getting Ahead and Just Getting By World. And they are one of our award winners as the 2023 Community Partner of the Year. Yes, OnTrack is a frequent flyer for CDBG funding, and we sincerely appreciate the support that we've gotten over the years. Our services are specifically cited in the consolidated plan as examples of services that HUD is looking for in communities to show that there's comprehensive support for people who, as they in their quest towards reaching affordable housing. We appreciate this opportunity. We want to thank each of the council members who serves on this committee, and we look forward to continuing to serve Asheville City residents in the months ahead. And if I have time left over, someone else can use it.
Thank you, Celeste.
Thank you.
Our next presenter is Haywood Street Congregation. We have Laura Kirby. You will also have a 30-second heads up.
Thank you. Can y'all hear me okay? Great. Good morning. Glad to be with y'all, and I really appreciate the opportunity to ask for support through the CDBG program. So I'm here to tell you about Haywood Street Respite, which the easiest way to understand it is just to think about if you or someone in your family was discharged from the hospital, what you need is a place to rest and follow doctor's orders and have support from your family on getting back to your doctor's appointments and taking care of things that you need to do while you've been sick. Our friends who are unhoused don't have those things, a place to rest and recover. So that's essentially what we're offering is a short-term place to stay following hospital discharge or outpatient surgery for individuals experiencing homelessness. And respite care is a model that was developed in the 90s. It has been proven to contribute to improved health and housing outcomes. While folks are staying with us, they have the opportunity to work on finding or developing a short-term housing plan and also making progress on a long-term housing plan. Since we have been around, we opened in 2014, we've had about 1,200 people stay with us, and around 75% consistently go somewhere other than the streets or camping when they leave respite. People might go stay with friends and family. Some will go to residential substance abuse treatment facilities. Some will go to transitional housing or other shorter term options. So we're proud of that and recognize that there's just a close relationship between health and homelessness. And that's essentially how this model of care developed. There's a national organization, the National Healthcare for the Homeless Council, which has a group under there called the Respite Care Providers Network. And they support us and 132 other respite programs around the country, continually offering best practices, support, technical support, guidance on emerging trends. And one of the things that we know that has happened in the homeless population in the last few years is an increased acuity of mental health and substance use challenges. And so what we've done over the past couple of years is shift our focus to find ways to better serve folks who have these complex substance use and mental health challenges in addition to a physical health challenge. So we've added staff, we've added a clinic. We just about a month ago hired a licensed clinical social worker and a full-time recovery peer. So we're really moving in the direction of trying to better serve folks who are still the core component of folks coming out of the hospital with a health crisis, but acknowledging that many times friends staying with us have these other complex needs. And so we're moving in a direction to offer those additional supports. We're also around by September is our goal to add a room to have 3 additional beds in respite. So we're able to add these new staff and this expansion of our capacity through a capacity building grant that we received from the Healthcare for the Homeless Council. So they're acknowledging that we are really well positioned to be able to move into this new space to address some of the challenges that Asheville is facing and many other cities around the country. We're one of 4 cities in the U.S. who have received this level of capacity building support from the Healthcare for the Homeless Council. So proud of that. We're proposing to serve 125 people during the grant period. The trend is for longer stays. So it's not as many people as we've served. In some years, we've served 200 people in a year. Over this next year, we're serving fewer people, but with
30 seconds left.
Okay. Longer stays, which allow us to, again, move into addressing some of these more complex problems and chronic health problems beyond just the initial event that got people into the hospital. Let me think if there's anything else to add in the last few seconds here. We just really appreciate the opportunity and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Laura. Next is Helpmate. We have April Burgess Johnson. The first project is the Emergency Shelter for Domestic Violence Survivors.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here with you all this morning. So Helpmate has 2 applications in front of you. One is for emergency shelter for domestic violence survivors, and the other is for housing case management for domestic violence survivors. And that second one is intertwined with our home TBRA rental assistance application. These projects are important because domestic violence is a leading cause of homelessness. And too often I hear domestic violence and homelessness talked about separately. And that's a false dichotomy. These issues are intertwined in a way that's inseparable. Domestic violence is the leading cause of homelessness for women and children. Unresolved trauma feeds chronicity in homelessness. It impacts people's substance use behavior. It impacts people's mental health. And so if we really want to untwine the knot of homelessness that we have in our community, we have to do as good a job as we can do in addressing domestic violence. So Helpmate's been around for nearly 50 years, and we've seen remarkable growth in the last 10 years. In the last decade, we've gotten to the place where we serve 3 times as many survivors and answer 5 times as many hotline calls as we did just a decade ago. That means that we're reaching people who need us, and we have to be able to show up and wrap full support around them when folks come to us. We've requested $40,000 for our emergency shelter program. Next year, it'll serve 215 people from 150 different families. We are in the process of building a new shelter because we also know that we will have another 300 or so families who call us for help during a time that we're full, and we're committed to meeting that need because we know that lack of access to emergency shelter contributes to high rates of homelessness attributable to domestic violence. Our shelter takes a low barrier approach. We recognize that more than 2/3 of the folks who are coming to us are already experiencing some impacts from the trauma they've experienced and may need increased support around mental health or substance use. And we take people where they are and we wrap services around them to make sure that we're meeting those needs. This is important because 92% of the folks who come to us are at extreme risk of homicide. That means that we're sheltering the people who are most likely to die if we don't, right? And so we have to make sure that we're meeting folks where they are. We also acknowledge that there's a disproportionate impact of violence on communities of color. 41% of the people who live in Helpmate shelter are people of color. And we take that work seriously. 40% of our staff are also people of color. And so we're reflecting the community that we serve. And we're, again, trying to meet people where they are. In terms of outcomes for our shelter, 80% of the folks who exit our shelter exit into known safe locations, generally into permanent housing. Of the other 20%, 10% of those folks are telling us that they're returning back to their prior living situation because they want to make another go at it and see if things will get better. And the other 10% don't tell us where they're going. Those are the 10% that make me worry at night, right? And so we have to keep foot on the gas to make sure that we're addressing these needs. And these needs ranked highly in our last point in time count in the Within Reach report from Dogwood Health Trust. You can't look at data coming out of the city of Asheville and not recognize that we must address homelessness as it relates to domestic violence if we're going to address homelessness as a whole. Funding right now is incredibly important for Helpmate and victim service providers. We are continuing to see the impacts of federal funding reductions from the U.S. Victims of Crime Act. It's a temporary pinch. There's a federal fix that's been put into place. It's going to be a couple more years before we feel that fix on the local level.
30-second heads up.
Thank you. And until then, we know that we're going to continue to see constriction of these federal funds. And so local funds, CDBG funds passing through the city, they've always been important to us. They'll continue to be even more important over this next 2-year time span. If it's okay, I'd like to just move straight into talking about our housing case management program, because these are very intertwined programs. So Helpmate tries to have, again, a linear, holistic kind of response to addressing domestic violence. And so our housing case management program, our housing case managers go to our shelter. They do intakes there, they meet folks, they describe the programs that are available. Helpmate's well networked with other homeless service providers in multiple ways. We participate in coordinated assessment. We go to the providers group. We send representatives to the HIAC. And so we're not out there kind of doing our own thing, but we realize that a large feeder into Helpmate's housing programs are through our emergency shelter. And so we network those programs together to the benefit of the folks that we serve. Helpmate just started within the last couple of years being able to administer home TBRA funds. And there were contracting delays. So we've just gone under contract. So in addition to sort of the carryover people from prior year home funds who will be doing continuing case management. We propose to serve a new 6 households with 17 people through this tenant-based rental assistance and the companion housing case management that goes with it. Just as a snapshot of how that fits into Helpmate's overall housing program, last year we served about 190 people in all of our housing programs, excluding our emergency shelter. So we're providing rental assistance that enables people to attain permanent housing, and nearly 100% of those have housing retention at 6 months. And so when we are able to house folks, they're remarkably successful in sustaining that housing. And part of the reason for that is that we do intensive work and we wrap multiple kinds of support around families. We're not just offering case management, we're offering free clinical counseling. We're going to court with folks when they need that. We're providing 24-hour access to an emergency hotline. We're offering children's supports so that the children in these families are getting the help that they need. And we're offering walk-in services here at the Buncombe County Family Justice Center every single day. So when we do housing case management with somebody, we help them with the intake process. We help them search for a house. We go out and inspect that house. We see them through the leasing process. We stay in communication with both the landlord and with the tenant in an ongoing basis so that if issues arise, problematic communication, misunderstandings, we can be there to help mediate and help survivors navigate those conversations. And we will provide ongoing case management support for as long as that family needs us to. So it's not a prescribed length of time, 6 months or 1 year and we're out. There are some folks who need us for a short duration, and there's some folks who need us for 2, 3, or 4 years. We'll be there for those families as well. So I think that I've ended about 90 seconds early, so I will yield my time back and thank you all very, very much for your consideration and for the important work you do in our community using these CDBG funds. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you very much, April. Next is Pisgah Legal Services. We have David Bartholomew.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is David Bartholomew, and I'm the Program Director for Homelessness Prevention Program. I also serve on HIAC and on AHAC as on both committees in advisory capacity. And so I do see a lot of the issues that Asheville is facing. And today I'm here to talk about what Pisgah Legal Services Homelessness Prevention Program does to address some of those problems. As I think everyone here is aware, evictions, the cost of evictions and the cost of serving homelessness is incredibly expensive. So an investment in Pisgah Legal Services and our diversion program is something that I think really benefits all of our community. We're asking the city for $60,000 in CDBG funds. This work will go towards preventing evictions, preventing foreclosures, stabilizing housing for families by obtaining or protecting the housing that they can afford, and preserving the quality of our housing stock. This will be especially useful at this time in the city of Asheville. I think everyone here is aware of the economic hardships inflation has caused and the incredible increase in housing costs and rent costs in the city. The most recent data we have from Buncombe County shows that there were 243 evictions filed in January. This is a significant increase, and statewide, we've seen from the state bar that evictions have returned to pre-pandemic levels, and we have concerns with the rising cost of housing here in Asheville that those numbers will go even higher than they were before 2019. There are an estimated 43,515 people in Buncombe County living in households that would qualify for Pisgah Legal Services. An estimated 53% of renters are paying more than 30% of their income towards cost of housing. So that's what we would consider cost burden. And those people are at severe risk of facing an eviction if anything out of the ordinary happens. Their car breaks down, they suffer a medical emergency, their family has an issue that they have to deal with. All of a sudden, they lose some of their income and they're facing eviction. Our program sets up at the courthouse and meets people where they are at one of the lowest points where they're facing eviction that day. We send attorneys there to meet them, help them navigate the process, make sure that their rights are enforced, make sure that there's an opportunity to work out something with the landlord. As you probably are aware, evictions are very expensive, not just for the person who is facing it, but for the community at large. And for the landlord, the whole process of eviction, the risk of vacancy, the finding of a new tenant can be expensive as well. And Pisgah Legal Services being there at the courthouse can really help with that issue. Last year, we helped over 500 households in the city of Asheville. 43% of those people were BIPOC population. Our work is committed to keeping people housed. We believe housing is a basic human right, and that our services are essential to protecting that. The value of having representation is well documented. Over 90% of landlords nationwide are represented and only 10% of tenants are. And when a tenant has somebody who can inform them of their rights, let them know that they do have due process under state and federal law, and gives them a chance to figure out what is possible to prevent them from being somebody who is potentially on the street and facing dire consequences. So really hope the city will continue to fund this important work, and I'll reserve my time.
Thank you, David. Next is Homeward Bound. They have their AHOPE coordinated entry project first, and we have Marcus Laws.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you guys for having me with you today. Come to talk to you about coordinated entry, which is a nationally recognized best practice among homeless service providers as a means to provide community-based housing interventions in an equitable manner. Coordinated entry is a streamlined system that provides quick access to individuals and families seeking assistance through referral and housing placement processes. When individuals present to us, we do our due diligence and we make every attempt to divert them from entering the homeless services system. If we are not able to do that, households are assessed using a standard assessment tool that identifies their vulnerability as well as barriers to housing. And those who are assessed having the highest vulnerability and housing barriers are prioritized available to housing programs and vacancies in the community. In Asheville, Buncombe County Continuum of Care, we currently have 7 organizations that participate in coordinated entry services, with a majority of those providers specializing in care for specific subpopulations within the homeless community. Homeward Bound provides community-based housing opportunities through coordinated entry to a large population of unhoused individuals by offering high access, low barrier options for service engagement. Recent assessment of housing and homeless services systems in Asheville, Buncombe County, conducted by the National Alliance to End Homelessness, reported a 257% increase in service needs since the year 2020. And with a goal outlined for our continuum to increase our housing or available beds by 50% over the next 2 years. Homeward Bound's current by name list, which is our list of individuals that have been identified as experiencing homelessness, has currently identified 186 individuals experiencing chronic homelessness, meaning they have been homeless for 1 year or they have had 4 more episodes of homelessness over a period of 3 years. We currently have identified 503 individuals who are experiencing non-chronic states of homelessness. The same report that the National Alliance provided called for changes in the current coordinated entry service system, ensuring equity and inclusion as part of our lens and scope as we make decisions, and increasing the offering of providers for options of point of entry and housing resources. And this is a task that Homeward Bound is currently working with the city, governing bodies, and partnering agencies to rectify. As this need grows in the community for housing and service interventions, we believe that the need for coordinated entry services in relation to shelter and housing opportunities will also grow. our ability to identify appropriate housing interventions that fit the needs of the persons that we're serving, to prioritize individuals based on their vulnerability and service needs is very important. In the near future, we are looking at Asheville, Buncombe County, bringing new housing units online with Homeward Bound's Compass Point Village project, as well as Shangri-La's Ramada Inn housing project. So in this funding cycle, we are asking for $50,000 to aid in coordinated entry efforts that will require a significant push from the staff that we have, as well as a lot of work to be done in the community. So we can continue to move towards having an effective and efficient coordinated entry system for the folks in our community. And I believe that is all I have for y'all today. And thank y'all for having me again.
Thank you, Marcus. I apologize, I went slightly out of order. So we should be having Spark Foundation. We have Tiffany Bell.
Thank you. I'm Tiffany Bell. I'm the director of the Domestic Violence Program at the Spark Foundation. And before I begin, I want to thank the City of Asheville and the Housing and Community Development Committee for giving me this opportunity to speak today. At Spark, we know that offender services are a crucial part of domestic violence prevention. It is a vital way to prevent new victims from being created by people that are known to cause harm and to hold them accountable for their actions. Providing services to people who use power and control, many of whom are also fathers, helps break the cycle of violence, preventing it from being a
Tiffany, I think you've accidentally gone on mute.
Sorry, thank you. Over the last several weeks, our classes have discussed the impact of domestic violence on children. I tell people that this is often a light bulb moment for many of our participants as they begin to realize the harm they have caused their children and families in these classes. Two fathers with children under 5 stated they did not realize that children as young as theirs could remember fighting and other traumatic events. We also often hear stories from participants of the abuse they witnessed as children, including a participant who held his mother's bleeding head after an assault. Another discussed the importance of validating children's feelings about abuse they've witnessed, saying he grew up in a violent home and later turned to substance use and joined a gang. Many are also able to connect the violence their own children have witnessed to the emotional and behavioral struggles of those same children. Recently, one participant linked violence his 2 sons witnessed between himself and their mother to his son's recent suspension in school for fighting. Our domestic violence and Strong Fathers programs not only teach the impact this violence has on family members, but also what true accountability, behavior change, and parenting skills are required in order for their families to heal. We also know that lasting change requires a holistic approach. Factors that increase the risk of abuse, such as unemployment, unstable housing, mental health, and substance use, must also be addressed for these programs to be truly effective. To this end, Spark provides case management services to address these risk factors, and 80% of our participants received case management support in the last year. With CDBG funding, 10% of our case management services were employment related. During this time, Spark has seen a dramatic increase in demand for these services, with Asheville City referrals increasing 53% from 47 to 72. The demographics of these participants match other groups prioritized by CDBG. Spark's 2022 domestic violence demographics show 17% of clients identified as extremely low income and 39% as low income. In these groups, 27% identified as Black or multiracial and 21% identified as Hispanic. These outcomes demonstrate Spark's ability to use CDBG funds to work with populations prioritized by this grant. In order to decrease domestic violence, we must address the individuals causing harm and hold them accountable, including fathers, to ensure the next generation does not inherit this deadly legacy of domestic violence. In order to achieve these goals, we seek the continued financial support of CDBG for $50,000. I'd like to end with the story of one of our clients. When he started with Spark, he was in recovery, staying at an Oxford house and unemployed. He wanted to get a job and his own place because he was working with DSS to regain custody of his young daughter who was in foster care. In class, he was able to identify his own abusive behaviors and discuss how he never wanted his own daughter to be treated the way he treated her mother. By the time he completed the program, he had obtained a high-level position at a local restaurant, moved into his apartment, and was in the process of reunification with his daughter. He also supported his peers by holding them accountable in class and providing several of them with jobs at his restaurants. This is but one example of the positive impact Spark's programs can have on the families in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. And my apologies again for skipping over you there. I'm so sorry. Next, we're going back to Homeward Bound. We have Lacey Hoyle to talk about the housing services.
Good morning. I am the Director of Rapid Rehousing and Prevention here at Homeward Bound. Thank you for the opportunity to present information on our request for CDBG funding for housing services. We are seeking $108,150 total for this request. This funding will support the full salary and benefits for one permanent supportive housing case manager serving individuals housed in housing authority units, as well as one case manager for our civilian rapid rehousing team, and the partial salary and benefits of a housing specialist who will assist with housing placement for individuals that are being served by the rapid rehousing team. This funding will allow us to provide housing procurement assistance and case management services to a total of 50 households, utilizing home TBRA funding for financial assistance for clients. I'd like to start by speaking about the Permanent Supportive Housing Program. We have successfully operated this program since 2006, and participants in the program receive long-term case management services that help to promote stability and permanent housing and link our individuals to other supportive services. Permanent supportive housing specifically aims to serve individuals who have experienced chronic homelessness, and this ongoing case management support provided to participants is critical to their success in housing and in preventing a return to homelessness. In the past year, the HACA Permanent Supportive Housing Team stationed at Aston Park Tower has served 125 households, 82 of which were new move-ins. This funding request supports one member of that team who works with up to 22 households. We've received CDBG funding to support this position for a few years now, and our partnership with the city in utilizing these funds has been a cornerstone of this service provision. We rely on this funding to continue to offer and to expand these important services to our most vulnerable community members. And without continued funding for this position, the 22 households currently being served by the position would no longer receive this vital supportive service. And we believe they would be highly likely to experience significant housing instability and perhaps eviction and return to homelessness. Moving on to rapid rehousing. We know that rapid rehousing services are an essential part of the Housing First model because they aim to protect people from the devastating impact of long-term homelessness. Rapid rehousing is designed to move literally homeless households into stable housing quickly while providing supportive services to help them move toward long-term stability and independence. As you may know, the National Alliance to End Homelessness recommended in their recent report on the state of homelessness and service provision in Asheville that an additional 200 rapid rehousing slots be provided to civilians in our community over the next 2 years. This goal is of particular interest to Homeward Bound, as we are currently the only agency in the area providing rapid rehousing services to the general population. We have successfully operated a rapid rehousing program for veterans using SSVF funding since 2014, and we've been operating our civilian rapid rehousing program since the onset of the COVID pandemic. As we look ahead to the end of this COVID funding, which has thus far supported the civilian team, CDBG funding and accompanying home TBRA support will be critical to our efforts to grow the program and to support our community in reaching the goal set forth by the National Alliance. Within the last year, the rapid rehousing team has supported a total of 45 households, including 22 new move-ins within the last year. Because of the support of the program, these households were homeless for shorter periods of time and were able to quickly connect with supportive services that are assisting and promoting stability in a variety of ways. Since we are the only agency in our community providing this vital service across all sectors of the population, it's critically important to continue funding for this team so that our community continues to have the opportunity to meet this recognized gap in the continuum of homeless services. I also just want to mention that the housing specialist position that's partially funded by this request is an important piece of the puzzle when it comes to housing placement and stability. The housing placement team is tasked with search and procurement of housing, cultivation of strategic partnerships, with landlords across our community who work with our programs to place homeless individuals into permanent housing. In a community with a rental vacancy rate of
You have
less
30
than
seconds left.
Thank you. And a critical shortage of affordable housing. This is no easy feat, and this team is invaluable to the success of our implementation of the Housing First model. The position that's partially funded with this request will support the rapid rehousing team and housing placement for individuals served in the program. I appreciate your time and consideration of this request today, and we appreciate your continued support of Homeward Bound. Thank you.
Thank you, Lacey. Next is Mountain BizWorks. We have Becca Wallace.
Good morning. I'm happy to be with all of you today and continue to share about the work. We're so grateful for the support from CDBG around our programming to support aspiring and existing small business owners in our community. And for those who aren't familiar with Mountain BizWorks, we're a CDFI, a community development financial institution. We'll celebrate 35 years next year. So our work is committed to supporting small business owners through the whole part of their journeys, through starting, through growing, and continuing to expand their businesses in the area. We provide coursework, one-on-one business coaching, and access to capital for small business owners, including the recent addition of the Mountain Community Capital Fund. So our project is aimed at assisting low-to-moderate income folks, especially with a focus on people of color as they start and grow their business. And we do also focus on providing supports around increasing employment. This funding has provided pathways for us to serve small business owners with community partners in a project that we've named Opportunity Asheville. And we work very closely with the Western Women's Business Center, who you'll get to hear from this morning, Eagle Market Street, and Black Wall Street. And this project and the collaborative approach has really allowed us to better connect folks, get them more quickly to resources they need, and then reduce the duplication of efforts through our programming. In our proposal this year, there's a new addition for a resource navigator, specifically in partnership with Black Wall Street. We want to make sure that as folks are looking to start their business, they understand the landscape of everything that's available to them. And through our local business impact survey in 2022, feedback from entrepreneurs during kind of an open forum and roundtables was really focused on not just supportive resources, but also their own community building around their business resource network, but then also just interpersonally. So we believe that this resource navigation will provide support for that. Over the past 6 years, this project of Opportunity Asheville has provided support for 1,741 low to moderate individuals, started or expanded 301 small businesses, and created 445 jobs. 48% of those were to BIPOC individuals in our community. So if you are looking around and spending time downtown Asheville, you're seeing the impressive economic growth and the vibrant business community that we all love. And this project is really aimed in supporting that there are inclusive pathways for this economic mobility and growth, and making sure that we work to reduce disparities for all of the entrepreneurs in our community to continue to grow a vibrant and diverse landscape. As we look around, we celebrate that many of these businesses and the lower income founders of them got their support with support from CDBG programming. So our project aims at continuing this approach to expand access to high-quality one-on-one business coaching for individuals who are seeking to start or grow their business, our robust offering of classes, and loan readiness support for aspiring entrepreneurs as they look to start and grow their business. This includes our Foundations Business course, our Financial Tools and QuickBooks courses, Catalyst cohorts, and our growing number of resources for our Spanish-speaking business community. We were able in the past year to translate all of our loan materials and application process into Spanish, as well as beginning to offer all of our financial courses, tools in Spanish. So we've really spent the last year with the support focusing on how we can make our resources more accessible to the community we serve. Through these courses and through the coaching, we're aiming to prepare entrepreneurs for access to capital, but then in addition, not just preparing them, but walking through their entire loan readiness journey, the application process, which many times can be intimidating to first-time borrowers, and then providing support.
30-second warning.
As I mentioned, we work closely with Opportunity Asheville partners that you'll hear later from this morning. This project will support 125 entrepreneurs, 35 businesses starting or expanded, and at least 55 jobs created or retained in this community. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share about this project this morning, and we appreciate the city's commitment to continue to provide pathways for all the entrepreneurs that we do serve.
Thank you, Becca. Next is Asheville Area Habitat for Humanity, and presenting for them is Andy Barnett.
Good morning. Thank you, council members and staff. Today I'm talking to you about our home repair program. We're asking for $90,000 in CDBG funds to provide health and safety and weatherization repairs for 9 low and very low income Asheville homeowners. It's difficult to accurately estimate the need for repairs in our communities. The best data that we have comes from the American Housing Survey. They find that about 3% of housing units across the country are inadequate or severely inadequate. That would translate to about 650 owner-occupied homes in need of repair here in our city. This year, we'll serve about 30 households in the city of Asheville. Recently, I had a chance to work on one of those homes with our great home repair team. Worked with Angela on her home in Stumptown. She told me as we were working that that home had been in her family for about 4 generations. And like a lot of 100-year-old homes, it needed a little bit of TLC. We helped her repair a bathroom floor that had been damaged by some leaking plumbing. We helped replace her front door with something more secure and less drafty. And, you know, as I looked up and down her block, it was really obvious that other property owners had, you know, looked in a different direction to deal with needed property repairs. They'd ended up selling homes to folks who had deeper pockets. Several of the homes had undergone really sophisticated remodels and would even easily sell for, you know, over $500,000. Angela told me she was worried that if she took that route, she wouldn't be able to afford another home in our community, much less in the neighborhood where her roots were. And we just can't afford to lose neighbors with roots like hers. Habitat's repair program provides those critical repairs that people need to live in their homes safely and with dignity, but it also helps keep our community economically integrated, and it keeps longtime Asheville neighbors stitched firmly to the fabric of our community. Your support of our CDBG request will have that kind of impact for 9 more families. And before my time's up, I want to speak directly to one of the questions that staff asked in our application. Yes, Habitat currently has a CDBG award for the repair program. To be honest, we got a little bit behind in drawing down CDBG funds. We target CDBG at our more complicated projects, and these tends to be ones where staff and often multiple trade contractors need to work in someone's home for several days. During the pandemic, we felt like this kind of project just presented too big of a health risk for people who are medically vulnerable. So over the last year, we've ramped back up, completing about 6 to 8 repair projects per month. We've drawn down $40,000 in CDBG funds in the last roughly 90 days, with another $60,000 planned by June 30th. At this pace, we'll exhaust the existing pool of funds by December, well before the next round of CDBG funds is available. So our request this year really only fills that gap so that there's no interruption in service to our community. So we're grateful for your consideration and encourage you to fully fund this critical work. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Last but not least, Carolina Small Business. You should have Zaroma. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me this morning. My name is Sudilma Anuel. I am the director of the Western Women's Business Center, a program of Carolina Small Business Development Fund. We work in partnership with Mountain Beast Work under the Opportunity Asheville, and you heard from Becca earlier some of our success and also our goals. We have been working together under this collaboration since 2017. For the Women's Business Center, we meet the needs of women entrepreneurs by providing one-on-one coaching, workshops, and access to capital. Specifically with this grant, with Opportunity Asheville, we are looking to continue offering these services, but also to spend the amount of time that we can give to our clients. So instead of working a short amount of hours, we're hoping to spend working more hours with them in Asheville. This grant will also support some of our special programs like the AABA. The AABA is our African American Business Association. We do this work in a networking event that we provide on a bi-monthly basis with Black Wall Street and Eagle Market Street, and of course, Mountain Beast. We also offer a Latino program. We offer culturally bilingual staff. So all of our services for the Latino community are providing in Spanish, and same with our materials. Thanks to this program, we were able to bring our Hispanic Heritage Month celebration to Asheville, and we hope that we can do that again this year. We had a success event with over 150 people celebrating the Hispanic Heritage Month. This grant will also support our holiday pop-up event. This is an event that we do in collaboration with the Asheville Mall, where we bring over 35 local women entrepreneurs to bring their products to the Asheville Mall in the open area and have an opportunity to sell their products and also be open to new clientele. We have done this event for 2 years now. And of course, we celebrate our annual WWBC conference. We have our next one that is coming up on April 13, and we'd love to see some of you there. This is an opportunity for us to celebrate our businesses and also to bring more resources to the business community. This past year, in collaboration with local partners, we also built the Hispanic Business Council, and we are looking to bring for the first time to Asheville a Hispanic gala to where we recognize Hispanic businesses in the area. I also wanted to let you know that the WWBC did not apply for this grant last year. However, our work with Opportunity Asheville and our partners was always there, and we continue to support this program and continue to support small businesses as well. And with that, I also wanted to give you the great news that the Women's Business Center opened a new location in the Asheville Mall. And this has given us an opportunity to increase and be more visible to our residents in the Asheville area. We went from getting 3 to 5 new intakes weekly to 7 to 11 intakes every week. So I wanted to thank everyone. And again, thank you for this opportunity. And then we hope to continue our work with all of you. Thank you.
I think that was our last one. Can you confirm, staff?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, great. So a big thank you to everyone that was able to attend today and share all of the wonderful work that they're doing in our community. I'm always so inspired by these presentations, and I'm thankful that we moved to this kind of format where we can hear from each group and just hear from them without it being a big conversation. Other councilwomen, did you have anything you wanted to add? I mean, this isn't a Q&A time, but this is the only item on our agenda. Okay, great. So as we said, I'll just restate when our next meeting is. It's March 29th at 1:45 p.m. And that's when we'll actually be making some recommendations for allocations. So those of you listening and all of you applicants that did such a great job today, that's the big day. So March 29th, just 8 days away. Big thank you to everyone again, including staff who organized and got all this to us. It's a really busy month in housing. So thank you, everybody. And if that is it, we can go ahead and adjourn. And I will see you all on the 29th. Have a great rest of